It did not take long before Cui Haoyan had successfully branded the inscription onto his weapon, and he could not help but gaze at Xue Haoling, his eyes lit up in triumph. Xue Haoling, let me try and test this to see whether or not it is the same as your inscription. Next, Cui Haoyan's inner energy surged directly into the weapon. The temperature rose and the inscription on his weapon shone with a red light. Cui Haoyan slashed out with the sword and saw how the fiery red sword cut out. A long gash of burnt ground was left in its wake. Seeing this scene, everyone erupted in surprise. This was almost exactly the same as Xue Haoling's inscription. Wow! The power of this inscription is so strong, it has such a strong flaming effect. So with this inscription you don't have to worry about your opponent. If you are around the same strength, an inscription like this one can easily determine the victory. Everyone's faces was filled with shock. This inscription was truly magnificent. If they could get one themselves, their combat ability would also improve. For some time, all of them envied the teammates of Bailey Hongzhuang. It was awesome to be friends with a local tyrant like her. Why didn't they know someone like Bailey Hongzhuang so that good stuff like inscriptions landed on their heads? The students of Lingying College had been disdainful towards Bailey Hongzhuang, but at this moment the eyes that looked at her changed. She was the kind of person anyone wanted to befriend. There was no one who managed to stay calm, even Nangong Xiujie and the others were shocked. After seeing the attack of Cui Haoyan, their eyes also turned shocked. This inscription was truly magnificent. It could increase their combat ability by so much. However, no matter how amazing the inscription was, it was a fact that their relationship with Bailey Hongzhuang was like fire and water. Even if she had so many inscriptions, they could not buy any of them. Nangong Yuer's face was filled with displeasure. What's so great about them? It is just a few inscriptions. The inscriptions from Wubao Pavilion are also very good. Her inscription came from Wubao Pavilion, but it had taken her a lot of effort to get the inscription. The inscription masters were noble existences, and they did not care about anyone's face at all. Also, the inscription masters of Wubao Pavilion would much rather study inscriptions. They had no actual interest in selling them. They would just occasionally place inscriptions at the Wubao Pavilion for the sake of selling them. She was a princess and naturally wanted the inscription masters to draw one that suited her the most. It was all because her father helped her prepare a lot of materials for inscriptions that she managed to convince an inscription master to create an inscription for her. So far she had spent a lot of time showing off this inscription. Because of this she did not care about the inscriptions of Bailey Hongzhuang. She just felt that Bailey Hongzhuang was using it to stand out from the crowd. Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin looked at one another. Nangong Yuer had always been favored by their father. Only because of this favoritism was she able to get an inscription designed for her. The two of them had not been treated so well. Originally they had planned on asking an inscription master to draw an inscription for them these few days. Unfortunately, the situation with Bailey Hongzhuang had caused their father to become furious and he naturally did not help them any longer. As for when they would have another chance, no one knew. Chapter 741. Not destroying it. Cui Haoyan did not expect that his weapon would have such an outstanding effect after branding the inscription onto it. The power was more than just a little stronger than before. This kind of flame was very hard to guard against. Apart from avoiding it, it was also very troublesome when one faced it in a direct confrontation. He could faintly feel that this inscription was stronger than Xue Haoling's. Recently he had always been admiring Bailey Hongzhuang. He could not imagine how she was doing all this. The kind of things that were difficult for any ordinary person were a breeze for Bailey Hongzhuang. Now he could not help but think that when something strange happened with Bailey Hongzhuang, it was not so difficult to accept it any longer. Because Bailey Hongzhuang was not an ordinary person. Just as Bailey Hongzhuang had married Di Beichen, this was already an amazing feat in the eyes of ordinary people. Xue Haoling, it would seem that our inscription is the exact same. Cui Haoyan's face was smug and he was smiling with ridicule. He had been humiliated by Xue Haoling before, and now it was time for him to fight back. Now Xue Haoling could find no way to fight back. Everything proved that Bailey Hongzhuang was saying the truth, but when it came to destroying his own weapon, it was simply impossible. All he had done so far was to achieve good results in the college tournament. If his weapon was destroyed, how could he possibly achieve good results? The lips of Bailey Hongzhuang rose into a shallow but charming smile as she said, "You're a man of your word. Xue Haoling, you aren't going to admit your promise from earlier? There are so many people present. If you don't complete your promise, then you will lose all your reputation." Bailey Hongzhuang knew that Xue Haoling was naturally unwilling to destroy his weapon. However, she was never willing to be soft to her enemy. Shui Haoling's face was ugly. This Bailey Hongzhuang seemed to have guessed his thoughts. The way she spoke left him no way of retreating. Obviously, Bailey Hongzhuang was trying to force him to destroy his weapon. Once the weapon was broken, then his next battle would not be easy. What is the difference between this and giving up the tournament? He looked around, his gaze slightly on the crowd. It was difficult to choose what to do. Shui Haoling, just say that you can't do it. Then I can look down on you. At this time Xia Jiqing naturally didn't mind falling out with him. Shui Haoling was a guy who had caused them many problems. It was hard to have a chance to humiliate him, now she would not miss it. After witnessing this scene, Song Hongxi could not help but think that Shui Haoling was an idiot. Many things could be done, but he directly dug a hole and jumped into it by himself. He did not understand why he would ever say that he would destroy his own weapon. Now that it had been said, he had no other option than to do what he promised. After a long time, Shui Haoling finally said, "You said this to fool me intentionally. I will not destroy my weapon." He had made a decision to not destroying his weapon. What could Bailey Hongzhuang do about it? Even if everyone was making fun of him now, as long as he got good results in the tournament, all these negative comments would vanish. Chapter 742. Bailey Hongzhuang is powerful. When Shui Haoling said so shamelessly, even the crowd who was observing was stunned. The face of Shui Haoling was simply too thick, wasn't it? Even if you are shameless to speak out so confidently like Shui Haoling did, this was not something an ordinary person was capable of doing. Cui Haoyan was also angered into laughing as he speechlessly watched Shui Haoling before finally asking, "Shui Haoling, are you even a man?" Shui Haoling's face was ugly. No matter what he said now, he would just cause people to despise him even more, so it was best to just stay quiet. Next, Shui Haoling walked straight back to the resting place. He had decided to not do anything before the end of the college tournament. This Shui Haoling is really shameless. I did not expect Beihai College to behave like this. I only heard about how bad the Kanglan College is, but now it seems that it is really the cultivators of Beihai College who are trash. The cultivators of Beihai College are really bad. The hearts of the audience were silent for a while. They could not understand how Shui Haoling was able to say such words with a proud face. If it was them, they would never be able to remain behind after such a loss of face. However, when looking at Shui Haoling, it seemed like he did not care. Cui Haoyan was even more annoyed. This guy is too shameless, I will destroy his weapon for him. Seeing that Cui Haoyan was about to move, Bailey Hongzhuang stopped him. Cui Haoyan, don't worry. Shui Haoling has made up his mind. Even if he was forced to destroy his weapon, he would not do it. Also, he just say that we are undermining the test, since he won't be able to join the next round without a weapon, and that would be very troublesome. The face of Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent. For Shui Haoling, who had no bottom line, it was very likely that he would do something like this. Hearing this, Cui Haoyan could not help but frown. Should we just let him act like this? Bailey Hongzhuang waved her hand. His heart is already chaotic. Even if he participates in the next round, he will have a hard time getting good results. He has already ruined his own reputation. This might be even better than ruining a weapon. If Shui Haoling had just ruined the weapon, he would be respected and people would be optimistic about him. But his actions had proved that he was a real villain, and everyone was very disgusted with him. It is difficult to understand what Shui Haoling was thinking. It was better to give Shui Haoling a bit of space to make them seem generous. Hongzhuang is not incorrect, Cui Haoyan, you should not care. Gong Xiaoqing's voice slowly sounded, but his heart was once more filled with admiration for Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman was really nothing that an ordinary woman could compare to. Whether it is strength or wisdom, it was far from ordinary people. Others were always at a disadvantage. After Bailey Hongzhuang spoke, there was a bit of understanding in the rest. She was really too powerful. After Bailey Hongzhuang finished speaking, Cui Haoyan understood it and immediately nodded. I understand. Xia Jiqing and the others were no longer hesitant and immediately used the inscriptions given to them by Bailey Hongzhuang. This way they performed better in the tournament. Chapter 743. Opponents of the second round. Huan Chuyu looked at Song Hongxi with a smile and said slowly, Vice President Song, the hearts of your student are not so good. Now that the college exchange tournament was ongoing, the behavior of the students represented the colleges, and Shui Haoling's actions were the same as losing face for the entire Beihai College. Such a great opportunity, naturally Huan Chuyu would not miss it. The face of Song Hongxi was quite ugly. What Shui Haoling had done was not very good. But no matter what, Shui Haoling had already acted like this and nothing could change it. When listening to the ridiculing words of Huan Chuyu, Song Hongxi was also quite angry. In the past he was always the one who laughed at the Kanglan College. When had this been turned around? Vice President Huan, this was because of your good students. If it wasn't because of her, how could Shui Haoling fall to such a situation? It seems that the students of Kanglan College have only learned about using tricks these last 3 years. Saying Song Hongxi, starting an argument, Huan Chuyu was not in a hurry, and instead a gentle smile hung on his face. It only worked because he was stupid enough. When he said this, Huan Chuyu was not interested in paying any more attention to Song Hongxi. This old guy had always liked to blame others for his faults. This had been the case for many years, and Huan Chuyu already knew about the temperament of the other guy. But Song Hongxi was filled with hatred. Huan Chuyu actually said that his student was stupid? Just as Song Hongxi was about to retort, Jian Qingxiu looked at him directly and shook his head unnoticeably, blocking the words he wanted to say. Jian Qingxiu's mood was foul. He had planned on insulting Kanglan College, but things were not going his way. Now, because of the Beihai College, the brilliance of Kanglan College had been brought to light, so he was feeling immensely depressed. If the Kanglan College students were allowed to continue like this, he would really become angry. When he felt the eyes of Jian Qingxiu, Song Hongxi dared no longer say anything, although he was fuming with anger on the inside. Lu Huayin and Fu Hongba looked at each other, their eyes filled with a smile. They had not been this happy for a long time. Mo Xinghai and Duan Yingwu had been using their identity to press down on the two of them. Now they could finally stay proud. The hour of break soon passed, and after a bit of time, everyone had been restored quite a bit. The second round of battle will now begin. With the sound of Jian Qingxiu's voice, the cultivators who had advanced to the second round slowly stood up and looked in the direction of the stage. To determine who you are to battle in the second round, we will also use a lottery. 5 students will be randomly selected to start the lottery. Bailey Hongzhuang stood in place. No matter who her opponent was, she did not care. Her thoughts were that soldiers would block the army, earth would block the water. Xia Jiqing was holding her long whip, her heart filled with excitement. She had already tested it. After adding the inscription, her attack power was much stronger than before. Soon everyone had been drawn. Xia Jiqing against Nangong Yuer, Gong Shaoqing against Shui Haoling, Dongfang Yu against Nangong Xiujia. Bailey Hongzhuang against Nan Yangzi. Xiao Lanxian against Jin Xingyu. Lin Yinghao, the vice president of Lingying College, slowly read the announced opponents. Some of those who heard it were happy while others were worried. Chapter 744, Bailey Hongzhuang, come on. Fortunately this time the draw was not made by the students. Now please, Xia Jiqing and Nangong Yuer, go to the arena. Lin Yinghao's face held a slight smile. Nangong Yuer was very strong, and although Xia Jiqing held some strength, but she was definitely not on Nangong Yuer's strength. Because Nangong Yuer had broken through the innate realm. In the second round of the competition, the stakes were much higher than they were in the first round, but even so, no one was giving up. Jiqing, go on. The cultivators of Kanglan College were all cheering for Xia Jiqing. Although they felt that Nangong Yuer was strong, as long as she could fight back it was already very good. Xia Jiqing nodded solemnly and said, I will. Nangong Yuer was faster than Xia Jiqing and her body flashed as she jumped directly into the arena. However, the words of Nangong Yuer surprised everyone. Bailey Hongzhuang, you come up. When the words came out, everyone looked at Nangong Yuer. They didn't understand if she was only trying to stir up trouble. I want to compete against you. Nangong Yuer continued to stress this point. She had originally hoped that she would directly draw Bailey Hongzhuang as an opponent. She had not expected it to be Xia Jiqing. The strength of Xia Jiqing was not strong enough to defeat her, but it was a waste of her time to fight her. She couldn't wait to fight Bailey Hongzhuang. Not for any other reason, only because of the unknown relationship between Mo Junyue and Bailey Hongzhuang. At this point she could not let go of Bailey Hongzhuang. Lin Yinghao was stunned for a moment. What was the third princess doing? Nangong Yuer, your opponent is Xia Jiqing. Lin Yinghao tried to persuade her. Nangong Yuer was unmoved. I know, but I want to fight against Bailey Hongzhuang. Noisy. Jian Qingxiu's brows became slightly wrinkled. He understood Nangong Yuer's messy temper. However, the entire Lingying College relied on the royal family. Therefore he had to turn a blind eye to Nangong Yuer's temper. However, he had not expected that she would make such a big fuss at this college tournament. Originally, with the strength of Nangong Yuer, she would win the battle with Xia Jiqing and advance to the next round, but she had to challenge Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang was the ace of Kanglin College. She would not be easy to beat. Ruan Yulong was in a very bad mood because he had been punished for leaving the Kanglin College group outside the gates. Now he could not even participate in the tournament. At this moment he just heard the request of Nangong Yuer. Although he did not know why she asked for such a request, he was very indulgent towards Nangong Yuer. Thinking of this, Ruan Yulong immediately said, "Principal, the opponent is determined by lottery. Since Nangong Yuer has such a request, as long as Bailey Hongzhuang is willing, this is also a good idea. If Bailey Hongzhuang does not dare accept, then that is it." Bailey Hongzhuang's brows furrowed slightly. She had never seen this Ruan Yulong before. She had not expected him to be so against her. It was really strange. Chapter 745, Bailey Hongzhuang should fight. Hongzhuang, who is this person? Why is the way he speaks so ugly? Xia Jiqing frowned. The way the other person said those things, it sounded as if Bailey Hongzhuang was afraid of Nangong Yuer if she declined the challenge. It seemed like it was giving Bailey Hongzhuang a choice when in fact there was no choice at all. The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang shone with wisdom as she looked at the person. This person should be the mentor of Lingyin College. I heard that we were blocked because a mentor wanted to embarrass us. It is very likely that he is that person. Xia Jiqing was stunned. She had also heard this rumor from the mouth of the Beihai College practitioners. The other party obviously wanted to ridicule them with this opportunity, so they also knew from the beginning what was going on. Jian Qingxiu's expression was hard to describe. As a principal, what he hated the most was when things did not go as expected. Originally he had intended to just ignore Nangong Yuer, and let her challenge whomever she wanted without accepting it. However, now things had changed since Ruan Yulong was actually a mentor of the Lingyin College. Bailey Hongzhuang, do you have the guts to face me? Nangong Yuer's chin was slightly raised, and her expression was filled with arrogance. There was a provocative look within her brows. She was confident that everything about her, including her background and her strength, was better than Bailey Hongzhuang. No matter what kind of fox-like seduction method she used to seduce Mo Yunjue, she would never let her shine. What problems are there between Bailey Hongzhuang and the third princess? Why is she so fixated on Bailey Hongzhuang? I don't know. Maybe it is because an outstanding woman can't handle another outstanding woman and wants to deal with her? You don't know about this, but I heard that Bailey Hongzhuang is the wife of Mo Yunjue. This is naturally the reason for her hostility. When an informed person said the real reason behind her hostility, the others were filled with amazement. This was truly surprising. Really? Of course it is real. I personally saw Mo Gongzi call Bailey Hongzhuang his lady on the first tower that day. Compared to the arrogance and provocation of Nangong Yuer, Bailey Hongzhuang still looked calm and tranquil. Since the third princess want to test my strength, then naturally I do not mind. Jian Qingxiu could not help but look at Huan Chuyu with a little helplessness. Old Huan, this matter, what should we do? Huan Chuyu still had a gentle look on his face, and when he looked at Bailey Hongzhuang he casually said, "Since both of them are willing, just let them go." Jian Qingxiu nodded slightly, his expression turning better. Since Nangong Yuer and Bailey Hongzhuang both agree, they will fight against one another. Xia Jiqing will fight against Nan Yangzi in the 4th round. Boss, go show her. Xia Jiqing's eyes were sparkled with conviction. She was worried as to the reason why Nangong Yuer suddenly challenged the boss. She always felt that she was quite stupid. Hongzhuang, you have to be careful. Zhang Yunfeng and the others voiced their warnings, their eyes filled with worry. Even so, they firmly believed in the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang. So far, every performance that Bailey Hongzhuang had made them believe in her unconditionally. They didn't care who Nangong Yuer was, as long as she was an opponent, she would be defeated. Chapter 746, grabbed her. Man. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly and slowly walked towards the stage under everyone's eyes. Nangong Xiujue and Nangong Yujin looked at one another. It seemed that their previous words had truly stimulated Nangong Yuer. Because of this, she would act so willful in this college exchange. The strength of our sister is very good, it will be easy for her to defeat Bailey Hongzhuang. Nangong Yujin looked indifferent. Even he had to praise Nangong Yuer's talent for cultivation. Nangong Yuer is younger than him, but she was stronger than him. Because of this, their father was more fond of her than him. Nangong Xiujie looked at Bailey Hongzhuang's back indifferently. I wanted to personally solve the problem with Bailey Hongzhuang, now it seems like I don't need to be the one shooting. This group of wastes from Kanglin College are not our opponents, even if they entered the 2nd round of the tournament, it was just by luck. Nangong Xiujia's eyes were filled with disdain. It was this group of wastes which had made him lose face in First Tower. It was simply unforgivable. If he had known that Bailey Hongzhuang and the others were from Kanglan College, then he would have definitely crippled them. Nangong Yujin nodded his head. Although he did not advance to the second round, this was not a big deal for him. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked onto the stage, standing in front of Nangong Yuer. Nangong Yuer was wearing a purple and pink skirt. She was a pretty young lady with quite a bit of charm. She looked cute, but there was arrogance written all over her face. Bailey Hongzhuang was much more mature and elegant. Her face was cold like ice, making people feel unable to get close. However, such a Bailey Hongzhuang was even more unattainable. Bailey Hongzhuang, I can see you have a bit of guts, Nangong Yuer smiled coldly. But you will soon regret your choice. Bailey Hongzhuang was not moving. I have never regretted a decision I made. I don't know why you hate me so much. So far she was still unaware of why Nangong Yuer was so hostile towards her. If it was for Nangong Xiujia, then it made no sense as he should make the attack on her himself. Would he really need his sister to come out for him? Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang did not even know the reason for her anger, Nangong Yuer was fuming mad. This was a one-of-a-kind grievance. Her not knowing was simply just showing that she did not care about her existence at all. It was naked contempt. However, the doubtful look on Bailey Hongzhuang's face was not likely to be an act. Did this woman really not know that they are rivals? You dared to grab my man, so you are destined to pay the price. Nangong Yuer was surprisingly straightforward. She directly said those overbearing words, and did not care what impact it might have on her. Grabbed her, man. Although she did not know the relationship between Di Baichen and Nangong Yuer, she was sure that this was all just wishful thinking of Nangong Yuer. At this time, a black figure appeared near the martial arts platform. A man that was tall and handsome stepped forward. His appearance caught many people's attention. Mo Gongzi. Seeing Mo Yunjue, Cui Haoyan and the others showed a smile on their faces. They were very fond of this friend they had found in the Qing dynasty. Mo Yunjue smiled slightly before he went to Cui Haoyan and the others. Chapter 748. Might have a misunderstanding. Mo Ganzi, how come you are here? Xia Jiqing asked with a happy smile on her face. I heard that today was the day for the tournament, so I came to cheer for you. It's just that there were some problems in the restaurant that delayed me a bit, so I am late. Listening to the words of Mo Yunjue, the faces of all the others filled with smiles. Even though Mo Yunjue was a member of the Qing dynasty, he did not cheer for Lingying College, but cheered for them instead. This was indeed shocking. Cui Haoyan and Dong Fangyu looked at one another. As a man, they were able to discern that Mo Yunjue had a good impression of Bailey Hongzhuang. If this was not the case, there was no need for Mo Yunjue to offend the second prince for them. In fact, everything Mo Yunjue has done has been for Bailey Hongzhuang. They believed that Mo Yunjue had come for the sake of helping Bailey Hongzhuang, so for that reason he was also their good friend. Hey, that's Mo Ganzi from the first tower. He must have come to cheer for Bailey Hongzhuang. Bailey Hongzhuang is a student of Kanglan College. I didn't know she was actually the wife of Mo Gongzi. It's very fortunate. I don't know what Mo Gongzi thinks. The third princess is also very good, but he seems to be unmoved. I think the third princess is too arrogant. Do you really want to marry someone like her? On the other hand, Bailey Hongzhuang is good, much more suitable as a wife. Everyone had their own opinion, but they were all filled with interest towards this love triangle. Gong Xiaoqing and the others had their expressions changing after hearing the words of the surrounding people. There seems to be a misunderstanding? Xia Jiqing and Zhang Yunfeng looked at each other. The man that Nangong Yuer liked was Mo Yunjue? If this is the case, then this misunderstanding is really too big. Mo Yunjue's face held a slight smile, and his eyes landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. This woman was always proud and strong. He believed that there would be a good performance this time at the tournament. Almost at the exact moment that Mo Yunjue arrived, Nangong Yuer noticed him. She also saw that the man who was in her heart only had eyes for Bailey Hongzhuang. Mo Yunjue had not seemed to even notice her existence. The smile on his face was solely because of Bailey Hongzhuang. Since the first tower opened in the imperial capital, she had seen Mo Yunjue many times, but it was immensely rare to see him smile. Most often, Mo Yunjue's face held no expression. She always thought that he disliked smiling. Now it seems that he did not dislike smiling, he just disliked smiling at her. A crazy jealousy swept through her heart. She was going to kill Bailey Hongzhuang. What she can't get, she will never let others have either. Bailey Hongzhuang could also feel the killing intent that started bursting out of Nangong Yuer's body, but she was still not nervous or felt panic. In fact, she had been the target of many different killing intents throughout her life. The killing intent displayed by Nangong Yuer was still quite ordinary. However, the fact that Nangong Yuer wanted to kill her was out of her expectations. The tournament had always banned killing their opponents, but it seemed that these rules did not matter to the third princess. She completely ignored all rules and did whatever she wanted to do. Thinking about this, Bailey Hongzhuang could not help to show a bit of disgust in her eyes. Chapter 749 In Nangong Yuer At the second layer of the Red Realm, she was not disgusted with people who had killing intent. But she was full of disgust towards Nangong Yuer, a person who only knew about her own interests and completely ignored the lives of others. It is like, just because she was born in the royal family, everything was fine even if she trampled upon others. Begin. When the judge's voice fell, Bailey Hongzhuang and Nangong Yuer immediately began fighting. Nangong Yuer's eyes were glaring at Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as you admit defeat and promise to leave Mo Yunjue, I will let you go. How about that? Hearing this, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly stunned. Mo Yunjue? When she thought about what had happened before in the first tower, and that Nangong Yujin had whispered something to Nangong Yuer, it all made sense to her. The person that Nangong Yuer likes is Mo Yunjue, not Di Baichen. The mood of Bailey Hongzhuang improved a bit after understanding this. It's just Mo Yunjue and her? It seems to be a misunderstanding? The line of sight of Bailey Hongzhuang turned slightly as she glanced at Mo Yunjue, who was standing beneath the stage, before she looked at Nangong Yuer. She saw that Nangong Yuer was being arrogant, as if Bailey Hongzhuang should be extremely grateful for her to offer her this option. In fact, this was exactly what Nangong Yuer thought. Bailey Hongzhuang immediately put away the thought of explaining the misunderstanding to her. Since Nangong Yuer believes so, then let her believe it. You think too much. The voice of Bailey Hongzhuang was very cold. Obviously she did not pay attention to the words of Nangong Yuer. For the arrogance of Nangong Yuer, it was simply better to just defeat her. When she said this, Nangong Yuer's face turned ugly. Bailey Hongzhuang dared to speak to her in such a way? It was simply unforgivable. Since you won't listen, I will fulfill your death wish. Nangong Yuer was gloomy. Usually this kind of person who did not know good from bad, would end up dead soon. Bailey Hongzhuang still looked calm. Stop with all this nonsense, just begin fighting. She did not want to spend any more time on this boring situation. She wanted to end the fight as soon as possible. The so-called princess was nothing in her eyes. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang dared to take the lead to challenge her, Nangong Yuer was so angry she began laughing. She did not expect that Kanglin College's ace was so stupid. The people also felt the sharp atmosphere on the stage, and their excitement grew stronger and stronger. It seemed this was a battle worth seeing. Bailey Hongzhuang is really stupid. She still dares to provoke Yuer at this point in time. I am afraid that it will be impossible for her to walk down the stage in the future. Nangong Xiujie smirked. What kind of temper Nangong Yuer had? It was quite obvious. From the moment she knew about the relationship between Mo Yunjue and Bailey Hongzhuang, she had sentenced Bailey Hongzhuang to death. On the stage the battle was about to begin. The strength within Nangong Yuer's body surged and the power of the second layer of the Red Realm exploded outwards. Feeling the steady breath and pulsating energy, everyone's eyes were filled with shock. The second layer of the Red Realm. The third princess has already broken through the second layer of the Red Realm. Oh my, the third princess has already broken through to the second layer of the Red Realm? Her talent is so strong. This Bailey Hongzhuang is so unfortunate, her and the third princess are not at the same rank at all. Chapter 750. Must undoubtedly win. When the strength exploded out of Nangong Yuer, almost everyone was certain that it was going to be her winning. To be able to break through to the second layer of the Red Realm at such a young age, her talent was outstanding. What's more, Bailey Hongzhuang was slightly younger than Nangong Yuer, so she was definitely not the opponent of the third princess. Jian Qingqiu's eyes were also showing a touch of joy. Nangong Yuer was still a first-layer cultivator of the Red Realm earlier. He had not expected her to break through. It was really a surprise. As long as Nangong Yuer defeated Bailey Hongzhuang, then Kanglin College was doomed to achieve bad results. However, compared to the excitement of the Lingyin College, the Kanglin College were unnaturally calm. This is really a group of frogs in a well. The second layer of the Red Realm, and she is sure to win? Our Hongzhuang is a monster in disguise. Xia Jiqing's expression was lit with excitement. She knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had also reached the second layer of the Red Realm. So what if Nangong Yuer was talented? Bailey Hongzhuang was even more talented. Wait for it, Hongzhuang will definitely win. Zhang Yunfeng's eyes were filled with trust. Even from the beginning they had never been worried about Bailey Hongzhuang being defeated. Nangong Xiujie and the others wanted to see the panic in the faces of Kanglin College's students, however there was no reaction at all. A bit of doubt appeared in their hearts. Could it be that they think that Bailey Hongzhuang still has a chance of winning? Nangong Xiujie thought about the talent of Nangong Yuer, which could basically dwarf all others of the same age, not to mention that Bailey Hongzhuang was younger than Nangong Yuer. Listening to the words of Nangong Xiujie, Nanong Yujin immediately dismissed the thoughts. Second brother, don't joke, it is impossible. I hear that Bailey Hongzhuang should have inherited something in the ruins. Maybe. Second brother, don't worry, they are just shocked. They haven't had a chance to react yet. Nangong Yujin's face was filled with a smile. When the principal had praised Yuer and said she was a genius, he knew she wouldn't be defeated. It is impossible to create a cultivator who was more powerful than Nangong Yuer in such a poor place as the Kanglin College. He was certain that the Kanglin College would fail here, in the second round of the competition. Zhang Hongxi could not help but look at Huan Chuyu. This Bailey Hongzhuang was really stupid. As long as Bailey Hongzhuang had not agreed, it was impossible for the Lingyin College to force her into fighting. As a result, there would have been a chance for her to advance in the next round. But because of her willfulness she could only stop here. However, when Zhang Hongxi saw that Huan Chuyu was still looking calm, as if he wasn't too shocked by what he saw, he was surprised. But he could not help but sneer. Pretender? Even now he can still pretend to be calm? When the results were out he would see how Huan Chuyu would still pretend. However, in the next moment the power of Bailey Hongzhuang was also released, and everyone present was shocked once more. Even Zhang Hongxi was shocked. Chapter 751. You are not my opponent. Second layer of the Red Realm. A power that was not weaker than Nangong Yuer burst out of Bailey Hongzhuang's body. Everyone seemed to have an illusion that this strength was even stronger than Nangong Yuer's. How is this possible? Everyone took a deep breath. Nangong Yuer was already acknowledged as a genius. How did Bailey Hongzhuang become one too? Not to mention she was younger than Nangong Yuer. Does that not mean that Bailey Hongzhuang's talent was better than Nangong Yuer? At the thought of this, everyone looked at one another, unaware of what to say. Nangong Yuer looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in shock. She couldn't believe that Bailey Hongzhuang actually had such a cultivation base. It must be said that she just broke through the second layer within the last few days. Wasn't it saying that Bailey Hongzhuang had a better cultivation talent than her? Instinctively, Nangong Yuer felt it was unacceptable, and her arrogance dropped by a few points. This way they were at the same starting point and no one knew how the battle would end. The look on Bailey Hongzhuang's face was indifferent. It seemed that she did not think much about the second layer of the Red Realm. In contrast, Nangong Yuer's mood was getting worse and worse. This kind of attitude was simply annoying. Even if you have reached the second layer of the Red Realm, you are not my opponent. Soon Nangong Yuer found her confidence again. She was a royal princess. The royal family was someone that other people simply couldn't compare with. It was impossible to compare her to other geniuses that were born in her generation. Bailey Hongzhuang looked indifferently at Nangong Yuer. You say so much nonsense. When she said this, Nangong Yuer got even angrier. Didn't this damn woman understand the gap between them? Since you want to die, I will let you die. Nangong Yuer was unstoppable, her body was rushing forward, her strength surging majestically in her hand, and she did not hesitate to blast it at Bailey Hongzhuang. Bang! The fists and legs were constantly meeting one another, shockwaves rippling through the air. Nangong Yuer was not being merciful at all. Every attack was unrelentingly aimed for Bailey Hongzhuang's vital parts. Boom! There was another collision with the two's fists. Nangong Yuer felt as if she had been punching on iron, and her hand was aching in pain. On the other hand, Bailey Hongzhuang was not moving, as if she had not been affected by the impact at all. Damn it! How could Bailey Hongzhuang's strength be so domineering? Nangong Yuer was not satisfied in her heart, and she refused to admit it. You are too brutal, she sneered. At least I am not like you, Bailey Hongzhuang answered. Her words did not leave any face for Nangong Yuer, causing her face to turn ugly. She regretted that she could not immediately shred Bailey Hongzhuang. Bang! Bailey Hongzhuang did not give Nangong Yuer a chance to retreat. Her tyrannical and fierce attacks continued to rain down upon Nangong Yuer's body. Under the offensive of Bailey Hongzhuang, Nangong Yuer stepped back. She was unable to resist this kind of attack. Seeing this scene, the look of the observing people had changed a bit. Who could have thought of the fact that it was Nangong Yuer who was at a disadvantage? Chapter 752, Isn't she too stupid? Stop chasing me. Nangong Yuer's body had retreated a few steps, trying to keep a distance from Bailey Hongzhuang. Her face was pale, and she had not expected the physical strength of Bailey Hongzhuang to be so overwhelming. It was as if she could not compete against Bailey Hongzhuang. The faces of Nangong Xiujia and Nangong Yujin were also suddenly turning strange. They were aware of how strong Nangong Yuer was. They had not expected that she would come at a disadvantage when fighting against Bailey Hongzhuang. It would seem that the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang was not simple. Previously, because her first opponent Lu Jinglin had such weak strength, she had not been able to find out the depth of Bailey Hongzhuang's power. This had caused them all to underestimate her. Next, Nangong Yuer took out a fiery red sword. The sword's blade was red, and it was engraved with delicate lines, shining coldly under the sunlight. Upon seeing it, Bailey Hongzhuang did not hesitate and took out her own glass sword. Nangong Yuer did not delay herself, rushing towards Bailey Hongzhuang once more. She had already tried once, but now she was going to regain everything she had lost before. Boom! The two women collided and the sound of their swords clashing spread. Everyone saw that the two of them were shrouded in the wind and dust that was kicked up by the collision. The purple and white figures were constantly intertwined. Even the hard ground beneath their feet was starting to show cracks. Sparks were flashing everywhere. Even though the people were not part of the battle, they could feel the danger of it. If they were not careful, then they would be seriously injured. Azure Rainbow Sword. Nangong Yuer screamed out as her majestic yuan qi flowed into the sword. After which, the sword grew in size as it burst towards Bailey Hongzhuang. Everyone could feel the power of this sword, and no one doubted that if this attack landed on Bailey Hongzhuang, if she did not die, she would be seriously injured. Shadowless kill. Bailey Hongzhuang's movement was not slow. When Nangong Yuer displayed her martial art techniques, she also used hers. Everyone saw a flash of silver, but they never saw what martial art that Bailey Hongzhuang had displayed. They were all curious in their hearts. They knew she had used some sort of skill, but there was not even the slightest bit of movement. Bailey Hongzhuang elegantly sidestepped and easily escaped Nangong Yuer's attack. When the sword qi landed on the ground, there was a crack that was over a dozen meters long. When they saw this, everyone in the audience sucked in a cold breath of air. The martial arts of the royal family were really deserving of their reputation. Fortunately, Bailey Hongzhuang was fast enough to move, otherwise her body was likely to have been chopped into two now. A sharp scream rang out, and then everyone looked at Nangong Yuer. They did not know when, but when they looked, they saw that blood was oozing out of her chest. The scream was also coming from Nangong Yuer. Feeling the pain in her chest, Nangong Yuer's face was extremely ugly. She had not expected that during this contest, Bailey Hongzhuang would actually be able to hurt her. The most important thing is that she did not even see when Bailey Hongzhuang had attacked her. After everyone noticed the blood oozing out of her chest, their eyes once again landed on Bailey Hongzhuang, but this time the glances were completely different. Who would have thought that the winner of this battle would actually be Bailey Hongzhuang? You actually dare to hurt me? Nangong Yuer raised her voice. She had never met anyone who dared to hurt her since she began cultivating in Lingyin College. Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Nangong Yuer as if she was looking at a fool. Wasn't this woman simply too stupid? Chapter 753, Nangong Yuer lost. If the third princess is afraid of being wounded, then it is better to not participate in this tournament. Bailey Hongzhuang was indifferent. Even if Nangong Yuer's talent was good, her heart and behavior made it impossible for her to have much success in the future. It is difficult to gain strength if one was not constantly fighting on the line between life and death. One needed to experience certain risks. However, Nangong Yuer could not even stand this wound, so how could her achievements be good? That is awesome. Hongzhuang is too good. This useless princess thought she was so good, but look at the final result. Xia Jiqing's face was filled with excitement. She had not expected that Nangong Yuer would have said so many words before, and even ridiculed Bailey Hongzhuang as a rival prior to the battle. Zhang Yunfeng and the others also held smiles on their faces. The royal family was really not good. At least Nangong Yuer was way too spoiled, not at all like a cultivator. Nangong Yuer has only practiced at the academy and at the royal palace. She has never really fought a serious battle before. Although her cultivation base is good, her combat ability is not at all comparable to a cultivator of the same rank. Even if her martial arts are strong, as long as the opponent has some sort of experience, she won't stand a chance. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes were flashing with wisdom. Such a practitioner was not at all useful. Sometimes, the better the family was, the worse the combat ability of the cultivators because they were reluctant to be wounded and die. You are completely correct. This is the disadvantage of the royal family. Mo Yunjue nodded slowly and admitted that Gong Xiaoqing had seen through the key problem with a simple glance. Mo Gongzi, you have stayed in the Qing dynasty for so long, do you know if the princes are the same as Nangong Yuer? Bai Junyu could not help but ask. They had only heard about Nangong Aochen's strength being overwhelming, they had no idea if he and Nangong Yuer were the same. If Nangong Aochen was the same as her, then they did not need to worry. However, Mo Yunjue shook his head. Nangong Aochen is known to be the most outstanding prince of the Qing dynasty. He wields excellent strength, his mind and character have no flaws. He is completely different from the arrogant Nangong Yuer. It's not only his cultivation base which is high, he is the real enemy. When he finished speaking, the expressions of the others turned heavy. They had not expected that Nangong Aochen was so powerful. It seems that if they wanted to win the college tournament, then it would be very difficult. I believe in the strength of Hongzhuang. Xia Jiqing stubbornly believed that Bailey Hongzhuang would win. She had a feeling that she would never lose. The others knew that Xia Jiqing saw Bailey Hongzhuang as an invincible general. But even so they felt some helplessness. Nangong Yujin and Nangong Xiujie did not think that Nangong Yuer would be seriously injured by Bailey Hongzhuang. Nangong Yuer could not stand the pain, it was impossible for the battle to continue. I did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang actually had some strength. Nangong Xiujie's eyes were filled with surprise, and a touch of interest flashed through. No matter how strong Bailey Hongzhuang was, she would definitely be defeated by his hands. Yuer's temper is a big weakness for her. Even if she has not been defeated yet, she can only lose. Yuer has never been able to stand the pain. Nangong Yujin was feeling helpless. He knew that with her temper and personality she could not continue. Chapter 754, Bailey Hongzhuang won. Bailey Hongzhuang wins. When the words of the judge fell, everyone knew that Bailey Hongzhuang had won and successfully advanced. When Bailey Hongzhuang lightly walked down the arena, there was no expression on her beautiful face. This kind of achievement was not enough for her. Nangong Yuer directly left towards the Lingying College to deal with the injury. Before she left, the hatred in her eyes was even more intense. The Qing dynasty was her turf, and the man she wanted was grabbed by Bailey Hongzhuang. Now she had even dared to hurt her. She would never let Bailey Hongzhuang leave this country alive. However, Bailey Hongzhuang did not care about her threat at all. If a threat alone had the power to kill her, then she would have died many times over already. Unfortunately, there were many people in the world who wanted her to die, and if they continued to cause trouble, she would help them on the way. Master, this disgusting princess is really annoying. Why not just directly kill her? Little Black's eyes flashed with anger. She was just a simple princess, but she dared to threaten its owner, simply courting death. Yes, she will definitely find troubles for you in the future. It is better to kill her for our own survival. Little White and Little Black were both very straightforward creatures. They would never drag on anything that could be solved fast, and their ideas had always been to kill fast. The phoenix eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang flashed with a cold light as she smiled slightly. Don't you worry, I have not gone easy on the enemy. Listening to Bailey Hongzhuang, Little Black and Little White were both enlightened. According to her words, she had already begun her revenge? Not waiting for Little Black and Little White to ask, Bailey Hongzhuang had already returned to the ranks of the Kanglan College students. When they saw the return of Bailey Hongzhuang, Xia Jiqing was the first to rush up. Hongzhuang, you are simply too great. Nangong Yuer is just unfortunate that her fighting ability is not too good. Bailey Hongzhuang said slowly. Nangong Yuer was usually so proud of her own strength. Not only was her strength outstanding, but her background was also very strong. However, they could never have thought that she was just a paper tiger. As long Bailey Hongzhuang realized this, she could have solved the battle long ago, but she did not. Listening to the judgment from Bailey Hongzhuang, Mo Yunjue's eyes also showed signs of praise. The comparison between Bailey Hongzhuang and Nangong Yuer was such that Nangong Yuer would lose on all fronts. Ruan Yulong's face was very ugly. He did not expect that Bailey Hongzhuang was at the second layer of the Red Realm. As long as he had known about this, he would not have promoted the battle. As a mentor of Nangong Yue, he was also very familiar with her strength. Although Nangong Yue was in the second layer of the Red Realm, it was only achieved under the accumulation of countless resources, and there was a certain gap when she was compared to other cultivators. However, a rank meant that one still wielded a certain amount of strength, so if the opponent was weaker than her, then it was highly likely that she would have won. Who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang was actually also at the second layer of the Red Realm? Damn, I did not see through the cultivation base of Bailey Hongzhuang. Ruan Yulong was deeply annoyed in his heart. He had previously noticed Bailey Hongzhuang, but there seemed to be an invisible energy shielding her. He could not accurately judge her cultivation base. Chapter 755. Striking a deal with Mo Yunjue. In fact, ever since Bailey Hongzhuang started cultivating, her cultivation base could not be detected, unless she intentionally exposed her strength in battle. Because of this, the Lingyin College lost a certain win fight. Jian Qingqiu had an ugly expression on his face. If she had fought against Xia Jiqing, she would have won without a problem, but she just had to challenge Bailey Hongzhuang. The challenge was even accepted, but in the end she lost. Losing a game like this was simply a joke. As the principal of the Lingyin College, he had also lost face. Jian Qingqiu could not help but look at Ruan Yulong, and Ruan Yulong was looking so shocked that his soul was flying away. He was punished before and only came out just now. He had not expected that such a thing would happen, and now he feared that the principal would not let him off. Thinking about it, Ruan Yulong's heart turned cold. How could he possibly be so unlucky? The smile on Huan Chuyo's face widened a few parts. The fact that Kanglin College had been capable of recruiting Bailey Hongzhuang was truly a blessing of the college. Before he left, he and Ren Tianxiong had already been mentally prepared for the loss. They had not expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would be this amazing. Maybe there might still be a glimmer of hope. When Song Hongxi saw the ugly expression on Jian Qingqiu's face, he actually found it a little fun. Even though he and Lingyin College were comrades because of the previous defeat of Beihai College, Jian Qingqiu had not given him even a little face. Now that Lingyin College had lost a game, it was possible for Beihai College to get back into the game. This was quite fun. Second round, Gong Xiaoqing against Xue Haolang. Gong Xiaoqing, you can do it. Bailey Hongzhuang had a bright smile on her face. She believed that Gong Xiaoqing would be able to win this fight. Gong Xiaoqing gave a slight nod before he walked to the martial arts platform. His aura was bright and his confidence caused everyone's eyes to brighten. With the temperament and appearance of Gong Xiaoqing, he had received a lot of attention back at Kanglin College. However, this was Lingyin College and there were many students who had not noticed him. Compared to Gong Xiaoqing's overwhelming self-confidence, the morale of Xue Haolang was very low. The previous scene had caused him to be reprimanded by the mentors, causing him to be in low spirits. Looking at the weapon in his hands, he never again felt the same kind of success. He had actually regretted using the inscription. Without this inscription, he would never have fallen into this situation. Bailey Hongzhuang slowly walked to the side of Mo Yunjue and her eyebrows lifted playfully. Mo Gongzi, I am being targeted by Nangong Yue because of you. Hearing this, Mo Yunjue's lips curled into a smile. I helped you once, you also solved a problem for me, isn't this good? Bailey Hongzhuang looked at Mo Yunjue but instantly regained her sights as she nodded. That's a deal. You couldn't have helped me on that day for the sake of getting me to help you with her? Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes were shining with a wise light. Since Nangong Xiujie and Nangong Yujin were there, he would be able to tell that Nangong Yue would know about it within a few days. Mo Yunjue waved his hand. This is just a coincidence. How could I expect this to happen? You are thinking too much. Chapter 756, Gong Xiaoqing wins. Bailey Hongzhuang smiled slightly. If Mo Yunjue said that he was unable to think of this happening, then she would not believe it. He was very intelligent and shrewd. However, no matter for what purpose Mo Yunjue helped her, help is help and they ought to help one another. She was not afraid of being entangled with Nangong Yue, and the days of Mo Yunjue could not be pleasant with her around. The situation was as good as Bailey Hongzhuang had expected. Gong Xiaoqing's strength was overwhelming. Even if Xue Haolang had been at his peak, he would still not be the opponent of Gong Xiaoqing, and now his state was really bad. Under such situations, Xue Haolang's loss can be guaranteed. Just a simple clash, but everyone had already determined the winner. The two mentors of Beihai College were also very anxious after seeing this scene, but now that the battle had begun they could do nothing. Song Hongshi's face was also very ugly. The performance of Beihai College in the first round was already unsatisfactory. If Shui Haoling lost now, then it would be even worse. Boom. With a sweeping attack of Gong Xiaoqing, Shui Haoling's body fell heavily onto the ground. Just as he tried to stand up, Gong Xiaoqing's sword appeared in front of him. Gong Xiaoqing wins. The judge immediately announced the result. The outcome of the battle was as clear as day. As soon as the sentence was said, Shui Haoling was like a lost child. His expression was stunned and his mood was horrible. He never thought it would end like this. Before the start of the college tournament, he would never have expected this ending. He had only thought of ridiculing the Kanglan College cultivators, but now he felt as if he was the real joke. Gong Xiaoqing slowly walked down from the stage. In the second round the Kanglan College had won 2 consecutive victories. The result had shocked and surprised many people. Previously I heard that the cultivators of Kanglan College were trash. Now I think that it is Beihai College which is the true trashy college. The previous Shui Haoling was so arrogant, but now he learned the truth. He lost and he is unable to be smug any longer. This time the Kanglan College has done well. Song Hongshi's face was unsightly, but he had to keep smiling. In the past, Song Hongshi was full of glory, but this year the situation was different. Gong Xiaoqing well fought. Dong Fangyu patted Gong Xiaoqing on the shoulder, immensely proud of his brother's results. He was very happy. Shui Haoling is not in a good state right now. This can also be considered a lucky draw. Gong Xiaoqing looked indifferent. This battle had not required all his strength, he could only say that his luck was very good. Dong Fangyu, Nangong Xiujia is not a good person to deal with, you have to be careful in the next round. Hearing this, Dong Fangyu nodded slightly. I understand that Nangong Xiujia is already at the innate realm. It is basically impossible for me to defeat him. Feeling the worried eyes of all the others, Dong Fangyu looked very carefree and easygoing. Don't worry so much. This is a test, and it is also a good chance to fight against an innate realm cultivator. It will be a good learning experience. They could see that Dong Fangyu had already prepared himself mentally, and everyone was relieved. Chapter 757, More Than One Can Bear. The truth was that when Dong Fangyu found out that his opponent was Nangong Xiujia, he knew that he would lose. With the cultivation base of Nangong Xiujia and the background of the royal family, Dong Fangyu had no chance of winning. According to Lingyin College, Nangong Xiujia was able to enter the finals. It could be said that Dong Fangyu's luck was not very good. Third game starts, Dong Fangyu against Nangong Xiujia. On the stage, Nangong Xiujia's gaze landed on Bailey Hongzhuang. It did not matter whether or not what Mo Yunjue had said was correct, a hostility had already appeared between himself and Bailey Hongzhuang. He had originally hoped that this battle would be against Bailey Hongzhuang. He had not thought that Nangong Yuer would have taken the lead in challenging her. Since the current opponent was also from Kanglan College, he would first recover some interest from Don Gangyu. Feeling the provocative gaze of Nangong Xiujia, a touch of worry emerged within Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. With such a narrow-hearted man as Nangong Xiujia, she was afraid that something bad might happen in the fight. Begin, the judge waved his hand. Immediately Dong Fangyu and Nangong Xiujia began battling. Nangong Xiujia did not hesitate at all and rushed directly to Dong Fangyu. The force of a third-layered Red Realm cultivator erupted and enveloped Dong Fangyu. When he felt the mighty strength of Nangong Xiujia, there was a bit of tension in the eyes of Dong Fangyu. The gap in their power was really too big, it would be difficult to even resist against a few attacks made by Nangong Xiujia. Boom. Nangong Xiujia slammed the palm of his hand directly on the body of Dong Fangyu. Dong Fangyu's face became pale in an instant, but his body did not collapse. Even if he was defeated, he would not give up easily. This was his belief. However, when they saw the next act, the eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang held a touch of anger. On top of the arena, Nangong Xiujia was intentionally playing Dong Fangyu, continually attacking him, but not letting him lose the last part of battle strength. It looked like a cat playing with a mouse, it was equivalent to completely stomping on the dignity of Dong Fangyu. Even when Dong Fangyu did his best, he could not hurt Nangong Xiujia. His face was extremely ugly because he knew that Nangong Xiujia was playing him like a monkey, but he had no other way. Because he refused to say that he admitted defeat. Seeing this, the faces of everyone watching was ugly. while the face of the Kanglin College students was filled with anger. Damn. This Nangong Xiujia is such a jerk. Xia Jiqing's eyes burned with raging anger. She was fed up with them and this was too much. I really want to rush up and tear this bastard up directly. Bai Junyu was also very disgusted. This was not only an insult of his strength, but also trampling on his dignity. Even if he managed to get out of this battle, there was a chance that his belief in cultivation would have been gone after such an experience. Because Nangong Xiujia was trying to defeat Dongfang Yu's heart in this way. The eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang was filled with coldness and her hands were clenched into fists. Early on she had expected that Nangong Xiujia would make it ugly, but she did not think that he would use such despicable means. It was simply disgusting. What they value is not achievements but their students. If Dongfang Yu lost confidence in himself because of this, he would be much more embarrassed even if they won. Chapter 759 Dongfang Yu's pain, is that so? Jian Qingqiu smiled slightly with a bit of disappointment in his eyes. This is just a contest, but there is nothing wrong with Nangong Xiujia's method. Besides, your student does not have any severe injuries, right? When listening to Jian Qingqiu, Huan Chuyou's eyes flashed with coldness. He could see from the beginning that his apology was nothing more than pretense. It is exactly because of this that he felt so disgusted by him. He was like a repulsing snake. If Principal Jian really thinks so, then I have nothing else to say. The tone of Huan Chuyu was not good. Anyone who encountered such a thing will feel disgusted, not to mention it was his student who was injured. But it seemed that Jian Qingqiu did not care. When looking at Huan Chuyu, Jiang Qingqiu's eyes showed a touch of disdain, but mostly indifference. Nangong Xiujia was born this way, not to mention other geniuses, so if someone wants to test his strength they are more than welcome. I will have no comment. When speaking, Jian Qingqiu was clearly showing off, saying that no one could beat Nangong Xiujia. Principal Jian, the mountain will fall to water one day. Being low-key is good, otherwise one day you will regret it severely. Huan Chuyu left those words as he stood up. He no longer cared about Jian Qingqiu and left the seating, unwilling to share a seat with him any longer. He would much rather be with the college team. Seeing the movements of Huan Chuyu, there was a strange expression in Jian Qingqiu's eyes, but he then sneered. It seems that the temperament of the Kanglin College is getting bigger and bigger. I am afraid that when you lose, you will lose more than you can afford. Jian Qingqiu's voice was cold and filled with ridicule. Today, Kanglin College was already on a downward trend. It might completely be removed from the continent soon. The Kanglin College is only afraid that they will lose. I'm sure they have no real skills. Song Hongxi chuckled. Both Jian Qingqiu and Song Hongxi looked at each other and laughed. They wanted the Kanglin College to suffer. Dongfang Yu was returned to the team with Lu Huayin and Fu Hongba. However, his entire face was filled with sadness and sorrow at the moment. Even his usually sparkling eyes were dull. Dongfang Yu, you need to go further. One setback cannot stop you, Lu Huayin said. However, when he heard this, a painful light shone in his eyes. Since he began cultivating, he had never suffered such humiliation. He was hit hard and could not get out of it anytime soon. At this moment, Huan Chuyu also came to the side of Dongfang Yu, and when looking at him he knew the situation was not looking good. Even as a vice president he had never seen it so bad before. If Dongfang Yu couldn't handle the setback he would become useless. Go, take Dongfang Yu back and rest. Huan Chuyu made a decision and instantly sent them back with him. Being in a noisy environment was not beneficial. Lu Huayin and Fu Hongba quickly nodded and did as they were told. They took Dongfang Yu back to rest at their residence. At the same time, the fact that Dongfang Yu was treated like this also had something to do with him. His eyes turned black and dangerous with a touch of indifference. His eyes landed on Nangong Xiujia, who was not far away. It seemed that Nangong Xiujia was still not clear about the consequences of offending him. However, at this moment Nangong Xiujia was still busy accepting the praise of everyone from the team of Lingyin College. The Kanglin College was not his opponent at all. Chapter 761, Violent. Xia Jiqing. Feeling the cold eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang, Nangong Xiujia was even more proud. He even provocatively raised an eyebrow when looking at her. From the moment that Bailey Hongzhuang offended him, she was destined to humiliation. Bailey Hongzhuang's face was filled with an enchanting smile, but her dark eyes were flashing with a deadly light. Next, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly raised her thumbs at Nangong Xiujie, and then, under the strange eyes of everyone, the thumb flipped over and tuned downward fast. When seeing the provocative action of Bailey Hongzhuang, Nangong Xiujie's face also tuned ugly. Damn it. Even now, Bailey Hongzhuang actually dared to challenge him? She was simply looking for death. Just when Nangong Xiujie was about to fight back, Bailey Hongzhuang slowly recovered her sight and stopped looking at him. Feeling the naked contempt that Bailey Hongzhuang was showing him, Nangong Xiujie's face was really ugly. He did not understand what exactly gave Bailey Hongzhuang the qualifications of despising him. Second brother, don't be angry. Bailey Hongzhuang is trying to make you angry this way. Nangong Yujin held a smug smile on his face. Just the situation of Dongfang Yu had already angered them this much. If his older brother did it a few more times, wouldn't they collapse completely? Hearing the words, Nangong Xiujie's face was also good once more. It is true that their cultivators are immensely weak. Next, Xia Jiqing was up against Nanyangza. Perhaps Xia Jiqing was too angry, but in the fight she directly viewed Nanyangza as Nangong Xiujie and erupted with a fierce attack. She was extremely violent. The scene attracted a shocking attention from the audience. No one thought that Xia Jiqing would be so horrible when she exploded in anger. It truly surprised many people. When Nanyangza lost in the hands of Xia Jiqing, she seemed to have been addicted to beating him, which had led to a burst of speechlessness. When the results of the second round was announced, the Beihai College was the ones who had the ugliest faces. In the third round they only had one person? Zhang Hongxi's face had the same color as pig's liver. Xiaolan Mei was their only final chance to enter the finals. If not, then Beihai College would lose all face. The next test is in an hour. After this time the third round will be held. When the words fell they all returned to the rest area. Jiqing, your battle was too shocking and violent. You have surprised us all. Zhang Yunfeng could not help but feel emotional. It seemed that one should not simply insult Xia Jiqing. Her power was not to be belittled. Xia Jiqing was a little embarrassed. I was too angry and just exploded. I did not expect that I would be able to advance to the third round. Our college has gotten 3 who advanced to the third round. In comparison to the other 2 colleges, ours is doing the best. Gong Xiaoqing slowly analyzed the situation. But the remaining Nangong Xiujie and Xiaolan Mei are not easy to deal with. As such, we should only expect one person to enter the final. Not bad, the others nodded. Although they had the most numbers now, the final result was not easy to predict. Chapter 762. Give Nangong Xiujie to me. Nangong Xiujie is a big problem. Gong Xiaoqing spoke with a low voice. If they faced off against Nangong Xiujie in the third round, they were likely to be dealt with in the same way as Dongfang Yu. This was a way of loss that their college could not handle. Xia Jiqing and the others also had worry in their eyes. Nangong Xiujie was so strong, there was no such thing as being able to overpower him, and his behavior was extremely despicable. In the next round there was only one person who could fight Nangong Xiujie, but this was a big problem. Just when everyone were worried about Nangong Xiujie, the voice of Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly rang. Give Nangong Xiujie to me. When the words came out, everyone looked at Bailey Hongzhuang. Gong Xiaoqing shook his head for the first time. No. You are the strongest in our team, it is impossible that you enter the finals. You cannot be used to deal with Nangong Xiujie. Xia Jiqing and the others also nodded their heads. Nangong Xiujie was so strong. If Bailey Honghuang was also defeat, Gong Xiaoqing would not be able to defeat him in the final. Because of this, Bailey Hongzhuang was the hope of their school. She was not to be used to deal with Nangong Xiujie. Gong Xiaoqing is right, Hongzhuang, you have to be safe and enter the finale. Xia Jiqing said seriously. Although she is very angry about the thing with Dongfang Yu, she had not lost her reason. Looking at the bigger picture, the final was the most important thing, and they could not be tempted by the moment of anger. However, Bailey Hongzhuang shook her head. Don't worry. Nangong Xiujie will be defeated by me. She will never let Nangong Xiujie be arrogant. Since he was humiliating Dongfang Yu this way, then she would use the same way to humiliate Nangong Xiujie. Since Nangong Xiujie vowed that he would enter finals, then she would let him stop outside the finals. Hongzhuang, just as Gong Xiaoqing was about to talk, Bailey Hongzhuang lifted his hand to interrupt him. I don't have much to say about this matter, but I will let Nangong Xiujie regret it. The beautiful eyes of Bailey Hongzhuang was shining with a cold light. Nangong Xiujia had successfully provoked her anger, she is bound to let him pay the price. Seeing the firm attitude of Bailey Hongzhuang, everyone were worried, but they also believed in Bailey Hongzhuang and thought she had to have her own reasons. After all, so far the judgment of Bailey Hongzhuang had never been wrong. Since your mind is set on it, I will not stop you. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes flashed with forbearance. In fact, he was also very angry because of the incident. He wanted to kill Nangong Xiujia directly. Only he was not powerful enough. In the past he had thought that he was strong enough, but after this college meeting he understood that he was merely a frog at the bottom of a well. Because they are not strong enough, they need to endure such humiliation. He could only watch as his good brother was bullied, unable to do anything, completely helpless. At this moment an unspeakable anger and unwillingness exploded in his heart. Even when they had been ridiculed by the Lingying College it was nothing, but now that they had insulted and humiliated Dongfang Yu like this, he felt a deep anger. If he was strong enough, then how could people ridicule them like this? If he was strong enough, he could personally avenge his brother. Chapter 763. To take Bailey Hongzhuang as a wife? Hongzhuang, I also support you. Kill this annoying guy. Xia Jiqing's eyes flashed with anger. He was so arrogant and they couldn't stand it. Bai Junyu and the others also agreed. In fact, this was what they wanted the most, it was just because of the overall situation that they choose to bear with it. However, after Bailey Hongzhuang made this decision, they choose to support it. Perhaps they were not rational enough. Perhaps their ideas were not good enough, but this was what they wanted to do and it was in their blood. As cultivators they had always been at the front together with their brothers. This time they would fight. We cannot forget that not only is there Nangong Xiujia, there is also Xiaolan Mei. Gong Xiaoqing's eyes flashed with wisdom while he was speaking. Although Xiaolan Mei is indifferent, he is very strong. He has never humiliated the other party, so even if he defeats us it doesn't matter. Although Xiaolan Mei was in another group than them, they did not find him disgusting. From their previous battles, they could see that he was a proper man. He was not being bothered by Shui Haolang and the others, and his indifference came from the heart. Everyone nodded. Amongst all the people fighting, Nangong Xiujia was the scum amongst scum. I am afraid that Nangong Xiujia is doing this because of me. I am sorry for dragging you all on, Mo Yunjue said with a low voice. As soon as the words were said, Cui Haoyan immediately answered, Mo Gongzi, this matter has nothing to do with you at all, you have been implicated from the start. Why would you apologize? Not only Cui Haoyan but all each others also felt the same way. Mo Yunjue belonged to the Qing dynasty, but he was willing to offend the two princes for them. This was already making them immensely grateful. Anyway, Nangong Yuer caused you some trouble, and I am quite angry because of this. Mo Yunjue's face was a little gloomy. With a personality like Nangong Xiujia, he would never be able to become a successor to the Qing dynasty in his life. Too shameless, mean and selfish, he was much worse than Nangong Aochan. Everyone could see that Mo Yunjue was genuinely angry in their behalf and a slight smile appeared on their faces. Their impression of Mo Yunjue was really good. Mo Gongzi, Nangong Yuer hunts you so seriously, but you haven't been subdued by her yet. I admire you very much. Thinking about how Nangong Yuer mistook Bailey Hongzhuang for Mo Yunjue's wife, they found it quite fun. Even the furious expression of hers made Xia Jiqing laugh out loud. Mo Yunjue smiled helplessly. In fact, I think this is a quite distressing matter. If I could find myself a wife, then this problem would be solved. Mo Gongzi, I am afraid that it is not just a few women who is scrambling to marry you. I guess your vision is too high. Zhang Yunfeng smiled and joked with him. Now that they had figured out what to do next, everyone's mood had relaxed a little. You have all seen how hot-headed Nangong Yuer is. Unless I find a strong woman like Bailey Hongzhuang, I am afraid that they will always lose to Nangong Yuer. Mo Yunjue joked. However, when everyone heard his words, their expressions changed subtly. Chapter 764. The Inscription Master's Search. It seemed that their guesses were not wrong. Mo Yunjue seemed to like Bailey Hongzhuang. Even if he was aware that Bailey Hongzhuang had already married someone, it was impossible for Mo Yunjue to let go of his like for her. If it wasn't so, then he would never say such a thing. Xia Jiqing and Zhang Yunfeng were both looking at Bailey Hongzhuang with envy. It was hard for a woman to not envy her. Di Baichen was so outstanding and he gave up all other women only to devote himself to Bailey Hongzhuang. but Mo Yunjue was aware that she already had a sweetheart. Even so, he was still willing to offend the two princes on her behalf. There was also a bit of surprise in Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes. Mo Yunjue suddenly sighed this. It was truly a bit ambiguous. Master, Mo Yunjue might like you too. Little Black exclaimed. His master's charm was really irresistible. It seemed that Di Baichen would have to stay beside their master in the future. Even if she was married, it would not affect the charm of their master. Haha, I don't know when Di Baichen will come back. It's no wonder Mo Yunjue has been helping the master. Little White laughed as if it had no fear in the world. Bailey Hongzhuang was helpless. She really wanted to knock the heads of those two small guys who dared to tease her. While Bailey Hongzhuang was attending the college tournament, the three inscription masters once again gathered in Wubao Pavilion. However, they did not see Bailey Hongzhuang, so all they could do was ask the sales assistant. Master Bai, the girl left after you that day. I do not know where she is now. A bit of helplessness appeared on the sales assistant's face. Each one of the three masters appeared today and all asked her the same question. However, the girl told her nothing before and she never asked. Such an important person, how come you did not even ask where she lived? Bai Jingtian looked dissatisfied. He had rushed back immediately after completing the research, and to his surprise, everything was exactly like Bailey Hongzhuang had said. It was so amazing. The problem that had always puzzled him had been solved in this way. He believed that as long as he could discuss me with Bailey Hongzhuang, he could learn more. Today he no longer treated Bailey Hongzhuang as a junior but as an equal. The accomplishments of Bailey Hongzhuang in the field of inscriptions can already be considered that of a master. However, he did not know where Bailey Hongzhuang was. If Bailey Hongzhuang had already left the imperial city, wouldn't he be depressed? Old man Bai, was the test successful after you returned? Qin Qingwu asked out loud. Bai Jingtian nodded his head. Yes. I have never heard the little girl's words before, but it is the most convenient way. It really makes me like this girl. Jianma was also impressed. After I went back to research it, I immediately returned HRE, but I don't know what master can teach this little girl. This is really amazing. Unfortunately, we have no trace of the little girl. Qin Qingwu frowned. I'll inquire about the traces of this little girl immediately. That day they were too troubled about the problem to think about anything else. Chapter 765. Problematic Future. The eyes of Bai Jingtian and Ji Yanma shone as they decided that they could not let Bailey Hongzhuang leave just like that. This kind of talent is truly horrifying. Old man Qin said as well, as he immediately asked them to inquire of the whereabouts of the little girl. The sales assistant in Wubao Pavilion saw that the inscription masters, whom he thought were high above all else, are looking for the small girl in a hurry, and he was surprised. Just who was this girl? How could she make three inscription masters forget all about their image? Once the news spread, he feared that the entire imperial capital would be shocked. The three inscription masters were big figures in the imperial capital, and they had a wide network of connections. So many people would want to befriend them, but it was simply impossible. Now these three inscription masters had taken the initiative to look for this girl. It was simply unheard of before. For some time, many people started searching for the whereabouts of Bailey Hongzhuang. As long as it was possible to help the three inscription masters, then they might gain something from it. They might even get an inscription. That is such a good thing that they normally would never be able to ask for. Bailey Hongzhuang was unaware that the three inscription masters were using their power to find a trace of her. She was still waiting for the start of the third round in the competition. Master Nangong Xiujie is at the third layer of the Red Realm. Although you might usually have no problems dealing with a third layer Red Realm practitioner, this Nangong Xiujie might have some hidden cards. Little Black analyzed. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded her head slightly. Nangong Xiujie must have his hidden cards, but as to how many he has, it is still unknown. Although he has the background of the royal family, all he could have, apart from natural treasures, was royal martial arts. However, behind her was the amazing Bailey family. How could she possibly lose to Nangong Xiujie in that kind of thing? Seeing the confident appearance of Bailey Hongzhuang, Little Black and Little White looked at each other, a smile hidden in their eyes. Their master was the most domineering person. Baisher also fiddled bored White his pawns. Damn, it was really depressing that he had not had the chance to fight yet. Soon after, the vice principal and Lu Huayan returned. However, Fu Hongba and Dong Fangyu never returned. Obviously the situation with Dong Fangyu could not be dealt with so easily. Fu Hongba was there trying to get Dong Fangyu out of the mental demons. Teacher, how is Dong Fangyu's situation? Gong Xiaoqing asked immediately after seeing Lu Huayin's return. Lu Huayin's face was a bit helpless as he shook his head. The situation is very bad, Dong Fengyu has been hit too hard to be able to get out of it. A confident person was suddenly defeated like this, all his confidence and self-assurance completely destroyed. It is not easy to gain hope again. Instantly, everyone's heart sank, but the anger in their eyes was even more intense. If Dong Fengyu is unable to escape from it, his future achievements would be incredibly limited. Don't think about it for the time being, fight well. I believe Dong Fengyu's ability will be good enough to break through this encounter and have even better results in the future. Lu Huayin's eyes flashed with a firm light. He held confidence in his students. Chapter 766, Free Pass, Bailey Hongzhuang. Although Lu Huayin was very optimistic, everyone understood that it was not an easy breakthrough. The matter had caused Dong Fengyu to become like this, and the one behind it was Nangong Xiujia. The hatred in everyone's heart was a bit more intense. Huan Chuyu also returned to the high platform, but his peaceful face was a lot colder at the moment. Dong Fengyu had become like this as a vice principal. He was riddled with guilt. If Dong Fengyu had not participated in the test, he would not have ended up like this. Seeing Huan Chuyu return, the faces of Jiang Qingqiu, Lin Ninghao and Song Hongxi did not change. They obviously believed from the start that the Kanglan College people did not deserve to be regarded equal to them. The third round of the competition begins now, Jian Qingqiu said. Because there are 5 cultivators left, we will draw lots. The cultivator who gets the blank sign will go directly to the next round. Listening to Jian Qingqiu's decision, everyone is surprised. How great it would be if one could get the free pass. 5 people, including Bailey Hongzhuang, went to draw the lottery. Bailey Hongzhuang's eyes could not help but fall on the blank tag in her hand. She did not expect that the person who got the blank sign turned out to be her. Nangong Xiujia against Gong Xiaoqing. Xiao Lanmei against Xia Jiqing. Bailey Hongzhuang sits over. When everyone heard this, they were even more emotional. They had not expected that Bailey Hongzhuang would be so fortunate. For a time, everyone were shocked by Bailey Hongzhuang's good luck. Anyone who can reach the finals will get a lot of attention. Bailey Hongzhuang was able to go straight to that level. Regardless of her final ranking, the fact that she could enter the final was already enough to be proud of. Everyone at Kanglan College were a little surprised when they heard the news. Bailey Hongzhuang had originally planned on dealing with Nangong Xiujia. She had not expected her luck to be this good. However, it is a good result. She can save her strength and enter the final, which is beneficial to them. Nangong Xiujia smiled coldly at Bailey Hongzhuang and said sarcastically, "It seems that you are very lucky. But we will meet sooner or later in the final. Even if you kneel to me for mercy, I will not let you go." Bailey Hongzhuang raised her eyebrows slightly and she could not help but ridiculing him. "You really think too much." In the first battle of the third round, Nangong Xiujia is against Gong Xiaoqing. Lin Ninghao said. However, at this moment Bailey Hongzhuang suddenly interrupted. "Principal, I wonder if you can transfer this blank card to others?" After hearing the words, Huan Chuyu, Jian Qingqiu, Lin Ninghao and Song Hongxi were shocked. They had not expected Bailey Hongzhuang to ask this suddenly, but it was the scene that Jian Qingqiu wanted to see the most. Judging from the previous situation, the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang is obviously good. This round turned out to be so bad for them. But who would have thought that Bailey Hongzhuang would make such a demand without fearing her own death? Chapter 767, Bailey Hongzhuang is impulsive. Huan Chuyu looked at Bailey Hongzhuang in wonder, wondering why Bailey Hongzhuang would suddenly make this decision. Logically saying, this is already the best result for their college. Who will Bailey Hongzhuang transfer her rights to? Lu Huayin was also stunned. Is there any reason for Bailey Hongzhuang to do this? Without waiting for Huan Chuyu to answer, Jiang Qingqiu has already taken the lead to say, "Yes, however, who would you like to give the rights to?" Gong Xiaoqing, Bailey Hongzhuang said without hesitation. "Okay, then this battle will be changed to Nangong Xiujia and Bailey Hongzhuang." Gong Xiaoqing goes directly to the finale. Jiang Qingqiu's ace was filled with a deep smile. The biggest ace for Kanglan College was Bailey Hongzhuang. Now Nangong Xiujia would be able to solve Bailey Hongzhuang, so Gong Xiaoqing would not be able to make any waves in the final. Looking at the bright smile on Jiang Qingqiu's face, Huan Chuyu scolded him in his heart. Just by looking at Jiang Qingqiu's smile, He could already guess that the wishful thinking he was dreaming of. If it was not good for Lingyin College, it would be impossible for them to promise it. Now that Jiang Qingxiu has already spoken, it will be useless even if he complains, so he could not help but feel helpless for a while. He was wondering why Bailey Hongzhuang made this decision. Gong Xiaoqing and Xia Jiqing slowly returned to the Kanglin College. Lu Huayin saw the two and asked, "Why did Bailey Hongzhuang make such a decision?" "Hongzhuang wants to take revenge for Dongfang Yu." Xia Jiqing never concealed it and directly said the truth. In fact, this was what all of them wanted to do. Listening to Xia Jiqing's words, Lu Huayin couldn't help but sigh. Too impulsive. He could not help but imagine that Bailey Hongzhuang would fail this battle. Whether it was Nangong Aochen, Nangong Xiujie or Xiaolan Mei, they were not easy people to deal with. With Gong Xiaoqing wanting to defeat them, it was too hard, but can Kanglin College really come back now? Thinking of the fact that they might lose again, Lu Huayin's face was very ugly. Kanglin College would not be able to handle another blow like this. However, he does not feel that Bailey Hongzhuang's approach is wrong. No matter what the outcome of the college tournament, he would always stay by the college's side. So what if they don't belong to the three colleges in the future? Today, Lingyin and Beihai College are too embarrassing. They had long since lost their original beliefs, so being a part of the three colleges does not make sense any longer. Teacher, no matter how the results will be, we all feel that this is very meaningful. Cui Haoyan said in a low voice. Ever since they had arrived at Lingyin College, they had been humiliated. Why should they let these despicable people look down on them? Perhaps this decision was impulsive, but they did not regret it. At a young age, if you are not sometimes impulsive, then you were not young. Understanding this, Lu Huayin nodded. Yes, Nangong Xiujie deserves a beating. However, there is one thing that Lu Huayin never said. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was a second-layer Red Realm cultivator, it was one rank worse than Nangong Xiujie. To win this battle, he was afraid would be very difficult. However, if Bailey Hongzhuang is really not Nangong Xiujie's opponent, then this time Kanglin College has no other options, so there is no difference to an early or late death. Chapter 768. Battling Nangong Xiujie. On the battle platform, Bailey Hongzhuang and Nangong Xiujie were standing opposite one antoher. The breeze was blowing, their cloths were fluttering in the wind, and the two were looking at one another. Even if they did not speak, the sharp edge showing in their eyes already showed the violent atmosphere between the two. Bailey Hongzhuang, I didn't expect you to be like this, finding your own grave. Nangong Xiujie's eyes were filled with mocking, and the smile on his lips was ridiculing her. Making such a decision in front of everyone was clearly trying to make herself look good. Unfortunately, she did not have the strength to back it up. Today he has completely ignored Mo Yunjue. No matter what kind of character Mo Yunjue is, he will never let this go. He believed that even if there was a strong power behind Mo Yunjue, he was a prince, and thus would never be touched. Of course, if Mo Yunjue knew what Nangong Xiujie was thinking at the moment, he would sneer. There is no one in this world he would not dare to move against. However, this depended on whether or not it mattered enough, and Bailey Hongzhuang clearly mattered enough. Since you want to find death, I will fulfill you. Nangong Xiujie turned his head and looked down on Bailey Hongzhuang. His confident, proud smile seemed as if he had already won victory. Bailey Hongzhuang's phoenix eyes glanced at him, revealing indifference and disdain. You seem to be very fond of being a royal piece of crap? Spending so much time to just talk, what purpose is there? Hearing her words, Nangong Xiujie's face could not help but be gloomy. Bailey Hongzhuang's words completely ripped open his face and defeated his previous arrogance. The feeling of saying a lot of ruthless words, wanting to see your opponent tremble in fear, however the other person was completely ignoring you and said a few words, rendering you speechless. Obviously Bailey Hongzhuang's ability to beat his face is first-rate. The contest begins. As the words of the Rieri fell, the atmosphere condensed. Nangong Xiujie's eyes darkened a bit, and he put away his previous arrogance. His eyes were a bit more serious. He is different from Nangong Yuer, who likes to underestimate her enemy. Besides, Bailey Hongzhuang has previously proven her ability. If he gets beaten, this will be very bad for his image. Each next moment, Nangong Xiujie held the palm of his hand, and Yuanli swept through his body without reservation. His feet slammed against the ground and he tore through the air as he appeared in front of Bailey Hongzhuang in a flash. Seeing this scene, Bailey Hongzhuang knows that Nangong Xiujie is decent, but she has no fear of others' physical fitness. A long sword pierced the air, and an amazing pressure stab towers Bailey Hongzhuang like lightning. Bailey Hongzhuang's body retreated, the glass sword came out and she welcomed Nangong Xiujie's sword move. Ding. 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 The movements of the two were fast as thunder, the sword lights were dazzling. As if two whirlwinds were entangled with each other, the sound of the weapons hitting each other continued to emerge from the whirlwind. The hard ground of the platform was punctured by sword holes, and as the dust scattered, everyone looked in deep confusion. Most of the people can't see the battle that is going on, they can only see the two colors rotating. It was a weird situation. Chapter 769. Shocked Nangong Xiujie. The two of them fiercely contested, and this completely ignited the atmosphere on the platform. Everyone looked at the battle without blinking, afraid to miss even the slightest detail. In the battles so far, only this battle was the most fierce and everyone thought that all the previous battles were not as good as this one. Nangong Xiujie was best at his speed, so he wanted to use his own speed to completely defeat Bailey Hongzhuang. However, he did not expect Bailey Hongzhuang's speed to be also fast. He tried his best and still had no advantage over her in terms of speed. Not only that, but Bailey Hongzhuang was also very skillful with her sword. She was even more skillful than him. If not for his Yuanli 1, to be a level higher than Bailey Hongzhuang, perhaps he would be in a disadvantageous position. At the thought of this possibility, Nangong Xiujie felt that it was impossible. How could Bailey Hongzhuang's combat experience be so rich? Suddenly, the two figures separated with a blast, standing in the two corners of the platform. Both of their clothes were somewhat damaged. Faint traces of blood could be seen on their clothes. In the line of sight, although the white dress of Bailey Hongzhuang was scratched by the sharp sword and a little blood was oozing out on the arm, but her indifferent face didn't even show the slightest bit of tiredness. Obviously, this battle did not have much impact on Bailey Hongzhuang. The situation of Nangong Xiujie was also good. However, his chest was oozing out some blood. It was obvious that in this exchange, it was Nangong Xiujie who was at a disadvantage. Seeing this scene, everyone was inextricably stunned. I didn't expect Bailey Hongzhuang to be so strong. Nangong Xiujie is a third-layer Red Realm cultivator. Doesn't that mean that Bailey Hongzhuang can fight across levels? 2. From this point of view, Bailey Hongzhuang is not only a genius, but her combat ability is also very powerful. She is the ace of our college. Nangong Xiujie was so arrogant before. This situation seems to be a bit bad for him. Xia Yuqing and other people's faces have emerged with an excited smile. They knew that Bailey Hongzhuang's combat power was amazing, but did not expect it to be this amazing. Nangong Xiujie had previously called himself to be powerful and for the first time he lost in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang. It is so funny. Xia Yuqing smiled. Gong Shaoqing looked at Bailey Hongzhuang thoughtfully. As early as before, he already knew that the strength of Bailey Hongzhuang was very strong, but now it seems that he still underestimated her. Having more combat ability, it is simpler to say, but in fact very few people can do it. How solid one's foundation should be to achieve that. From everyone's understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang, it was impossible to have such a solid foundation. To have such a solid foundation, the time and energy that needs to be spent on it is an absolutely terrifying amount, but Bailey Hongzhuang had done it. Not only she was a very talented pharmacist, but she also had a very good understanding of inscriptions. When Bailey Hongzhuang took out the inscription, there was a terrifying conjecture in his heart. Maybe Bailey Hongzhuang was the inscriptionist who drew the inscription? Just that, is this even possible? But this is something that could only be answered by Bailey Hongzhuang herself. Chapter 770, Devil's Palm. If it was someone else, he wouldn't hesitate to say that it was impossible, but if it was Bailey Hongzhuang, he wouldn't be able to give a definite answer. In the beginning, when Bailey Hongzhuang came to the college, her strength was outstanding, but she was not his one or Dongfang Yu's opponent. But now, in just a short time, Bailey Hongzhuang overtook them, and this kind of progress was simply terrific. Despite obtaining the legacy of the ancient ruins, luck was also part of the strength. At least in this respect he was unable to compare with Bailey Hongzhuang. Lu Huayan's eyes were also flashing with joy. This performance of Bailey Hongzhuang was simply stunning. Huan Chuyu also put aside the worries in his heart. Although Bailey Hongzhuang was young, she always had her own reasons for doing things, and now they have no choice but to believe in her. Compared with the calm Huan Chuyu, Jiang Qingqiu's face turned black. He never imagined that Bailey Hongzhuang's strength could reach this level. If Bailey Hongzhuang won this competition, it would be really bad. Nangong Xiujia's face was also very ugly. He originally thought of winning in a brilliant manner that did not leave a way for Bailey Hongzhuang to counterattack, but what happened now was not the same as he had imagined. That was just the appetizer. Now let's start the real battle. Nangong Xiujia put away the arrogance that he had in the past, and his eyes were serious. Now he has a clear understanding of Bailey Hongzhuang's strength. She was not simple. If he was not careful, he would lose in her hands. And such a result he refused to accept. Hearing what Nangong Xiujia said, the look of the people changed again. The battle between the two was so fierce and it was just the appetizer? So how terrific would the real battle be? Bailey Hongzhuang indifferently said, "All right, let's quickly finish this." She knew that Nangong Xiujia have yet to use all his strength, but she also hasn't used all of her strength. The next is the real contest. In a flash, Nangong Xiujia directly withdrew his weapon. Then Yuanli rushed wildly and continually gathered on his hands. Everyone saw that Nangong Xiujia's hands were continuously moving, and a complex ball of Yuanli formed in his hands. At the same time, a powerful and heart-rending force spread from his hands. Devil's Palm. Nangong Xiujia shouted, and to everyone's horror, a huge palm was suspended in the air. The palm was in white color, but it was covered with black veins like palm prints. It was dreadful. In particular, the frightening power emitted by this martial art made many people's hearts palpitate. That was a force that could threaten their lives. It is a high-level mysterious grade martial arts skill. The crowd exclaimed, "The imperial family is famous for its might, and their might is extremely formidable." It is said that in the past there have been members of the imperial family who used this skill to defeat their opponent whose Yuanli was a level higher. I didn't expect Nangong Xiujia to practice Devil's Palm. It also seems that he has mastered it. I'm afraid that this time Bailey Hongzhuang is finished. Yes, the royal family's heritage is not comparable to that of ordinary people. It is unwise to offend Nangong Xiujia. Chapter 771. Shocking everyone. Seeing Nangong Xiujia's move, Bailey Hongzhuang's face did not show the least bit of panic. Bailey Hongzhuang's speed was not slow, her hands moved as she made many complicated and mysterious handprints. Everyone was dazzled. It could be seen that the level of martial arts skill used by Bailey Hongzhuang is not by any means weak in terms of speed or complexity. The final result of the battle was still unknown. Sacred Palm. 1. A violent energy fluctuation broke out from the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang, and a few beads of sweat could also be seen between her brows. Everyone was stunned because the energy fluctuation which spread out from Bailey Hongzhuang was not weaker than that of the Devil's Palm. Then a huge palm with a cyan-colored flame appeared behind Bailey Hongzhuang. As the cyan flame burned, and the temperature around the platform rose a little instantly and beads of sweat appeared on practitioners' faces who were close. Obviously, the martial arts skill of Bailey Hongzhuang was also a mysterious grade martial arts skill, and its level was also not weaker than that of Nangong Xiujia. Sensing the power of these two powerful fluctuations, the onlookers who were quite close to the platform took a few steps back. As long as the two martial arts collide, the energy that erupts must be terrifying. If they were too close to the platform, they might get implicated in the resulting disaster. Seeing that everyone has stepped back, many people sighed. The difference of strength between the acquired realm and congenital realm was too high. 2. The power brought by Bailey Hongzhuang and Nangong Xiujia was not bearable to ordinary people. Xia Yuqing couldn't help but worry a little. She didn't expect that Nangong Xiujia's reputation for being powerful wasn't undeserved but true. These fluctuations were too frightening. Bailey Hongzhuang wouldn't have an accident, right? Not only Xia Yuqing, Gong Shaoqing and the others were also very worried. In a fight of this kind of level, they can no longer judge who is stronger. A look of ruthlessness flashed past Nangong Xiujia's eyes. The huge palm did not hesitate to hit Bailey Hongzhuang. Die. Bailey Hongzhuang's sacred palm slammed against the Devil's Palm fiercely. The white light and the cyan light collided violently, and the Devil's Palm and the sacred palm collided together in the sight of countless people. Boom! A powerful bang sounded as if it had come from the ninth heaven. The unusually violent energy was raging around the platform. Boom! The sky seemed to collapse at that instant and the violent white and cyan lights swept away everything that came in contact, each occupying a half side of the platform. Under the stage of the competition, countless practitioners were shocked looking at the violent energy on the stage. It was a really astonishing sight. Nangong Yujin and others who were previously unperturbed were also nervously looking at the high platform at this moment. This fierce battle has exceeded their expectations. The crowd was silent at this moment. Only the explosions caused by the two martial arts skills could be heard. Almost all the onlookers couldn't even say a word. This kind of confrontation, even in the previous year's college tournaments, was very rare. No one could predict the winner of this battle. The talent of Bailey Hongzhuang was amazing. Nangong Xiujie was strong. What's more, Nangong Xiujie's Yuanli was even a level higher than Bailey Hongzhuang. Chapter 772, You Lose. When the white light and the cyan light disappeared, the smoke gradually dispersed, and everyone could see everything that was in front of them. The two figures on the stage gradually appeared in everyone's eyes. The originally hard and tough platform already had a huge deep pit in the middle, and there were numerous cracks like a spiderweb in its sides. Nangong Xiujie still stood in his original position. His luxurious robes had been stained with blood, his hair was messy and he was all smiling. On the other hand, Bailey Hongzhuang's plain white dress was also blooming with blood, her fine black hair draped over the shoulders. Her delicate and beautiful face was pale. Bailey Hongzhuang could not even imagine how the battle which she thought that she could have easily won had become like this. However, the originally lively environment seemed to be frozen at this moment, and everyone's eyes were focused on Bailey Hongzhuang and Nangong Xiujie. Although Nangong Xiujie's face was a bit pale, his figure was still straight, and the corner of his mouth slowly spurred a sneer. You lose? It was just the one simple words. Bailey Hongzhuang's face turned ugly. But she pretended to not care. I won't, puff. 2. Before even she could finish a sentence, Bailey Hongzhuang could not control the blood rushing out of her throat, and spewed out a mouthful of blood. As blood spewed out, Bailey Hongzhuang's face instantly turned pale, the whole person was unsteady and fell to the ground. Seeing this scene, everyone in there sucked in a breath of cold air. The result was really imaginable. Who told Bailey Hongzhuang to oppose Nangong Xiujie? No matter what, Nangong Xiujie had the advantage. Of course, in this situation Nangong Xiujie won. How could this be? Xia Jiqing and others were with unspeakable pain and hatred. Bailey Hongzhuang actually lost. Since you guys are so cruel, you can only watch her die. Nangong Xiujie indifferently said. Nangong Xiujie went towards Bailey Hongzhuang step by step, and Bailey Hongzhuang, who had no strength to stand up, had a touch of tension in her eyes after seeing him come closer. What are you going to do? The smile on Nangong Xiujie's lips gradually widened. It was enchanting and charming. Every step of him was very slow, but it was extremely firm, as if every step was stepping on Bailey Hongzhuang's heart. Impeach. Nangong Xiujie did not answer Bailey Hongzhuang, but kissed Bailey Hongzhuang directly in her mouth. At that moment Bailey Hongzhuang saw two figures at the distance coldly watching her. It was Dibei Chen and Han Xiling. Why were they here? Dibei Chen might have come for her, but why did he come together with Han Xiling? Chapter 773, You Are Just Trash. Fearing that Dibei Chen might misunderstand, Bailey Hongzhuang fiercely bit his tongue. Seeing this scene, everyone is sucked in cold breath again. Was Bailey Hongzhuang crazy? She wanted to humiliate Nangong Xiujie in such a way? But this is the Qin country's capital. However, when everyone of Kanglan College saw this scene, they only felt their blood boil, and every cell in their body was excited. This was Bailey Hongzhuang's counterattack. Bailey Hongzhuang sneered as she looked at Nangong Xiujie condescendingly. Her eyes were full of disdain. She wanted to pay back all the things that Nangong Xiujie had done to Dong Fangyu, and also didn't want Dibei Chen to misunderstand. She wanted Nangong Xiujie to taste the pain of being humiliated. You are just trash. When he said this, Nangong Xiujie's eyes were bloodshot. He was a high-ranking prince. When was he humiliated like this? Bailey Hongzhuang, you are looking for death. Nangong Xiujie gnashed his teeth. This was the biggest shame in his life. He had always been condescending, but now he was being bitten by a woman. It was simply unbearable. Oh. Bailey Hongzhuang chuckled. Is it that only you are allowed to humiliate people and others are not allowed to humiliate you? 1. You are merely relying on your identity as a prince to oppress everyone. If you did not have this identity, you are nothing. The next moment, Nangong Xiujie threw her down to the ground below the platform, and said, If I am trash, you are the trash of all trashes. Everyone stomp on her and beat her to death. After saying this, Nangong Xiujie left the platform without hesitation. Only Bailey Hongzhuang was still lying below the platform and was suffering unbearable humiliation. Bailey Hongzhuang used her actions to take revenge for Dong Fangyu. Originally, the Kanglin College practitioners who saw this should have been very angry, but somehow, they also felt indescribably happy. Perhaps they had secretly envied her on weekdays, forgetting that they also have a backbone, and also have an unyielding will. But no one went to help Bailey Hongzhuang. She was still lying there surrounded by a sea of students from various colleges looking at her. There was a thick smile on the face of Han Xiling. Bailey Hongzhuang not only didn't disappoint her, but her performance was also perfect. Now with this, how can Dibei Chen still love her? It was hard for Han Xiling's heart to conceal the excitement. There was also a rumor of Bailey Hongzhuang being that Mo Yunjua's wife, and it was also said that they even had a child. Chapter 774. Completely wiped out compared with the happy Huan Chuyu, Jian Qingqiu and Lin Ninghao's faces were very ugly. Originally based on Nangong Xiujia's strength, it was impossible for him to lose this battle. But now he has not only lost the battle but also got humiliated in public. On the contrary, with the fact that Nangong Xiujia had previously humiliated Dong Fangyu, this scene was taken for granted. The most important thing is that this was Lingyin College's territory. Not only they had lost the battle in their own territory, but even the students of Lingyin College were applauding Bailey Hongzhuang. This was simply nonsensical. Now, because of the overall situation, they can't stop their students from cheering. If this matter was spread, it would only bring shame to the history of Lingyin College. Zhang Hongxi was equally astonished. He looked at Huan Chuyu with a hint of envy in his eyes. It was a great blessing for Kanglin College to have a student like Bailey Hongzhuang. So far, all the limelight of the inter-college tournament had been robbed by Bailey Hongzhuang, and the entire Beihai College seems to have become a foil. Regardless of the final result of this tournament, no one will forget the amazing performance of the Kanglin College. Nangong Yujin's face was ugly to the extreme. Although they represent Lingyin College as Qing's princes, they also represented the face of the Qing's imperial family. Now all the people who represented college have been wiped out. This was not only the shame for Lingyin College but also the shame for their imperial family. As of now, there was only one person remaining, and that was Nangong Aochen. Although Nangong Aochen was strong enough to win first place in the inter-college tournament, they have lost in the first few elimination rounds. This reality made the Qing's royal family unsatisfactory. Nangong Yujin quickly jumped onto the platform, and immediately carried back Nangong Xiuandershai, who was unable to move. Nangong Xiujia had already been ridiculed. If he still stayed here, it would just be a joke in the eyes of everyone. He was even more worried that his second brother couldn't stand such a big blow. On normal days, only his second brother humiliates others. When was the situation of others humiliating his second brother? It had never happened before. What's more, when it happened, it still happened in the eyes of the public. With his second brother's temper, he was afraid that he would completely collapse. Xia Yuqing and others immediately came to Bailey Hongzhuang's side. In this battle, though Bailey Hongzhuang was not hurt that much, it was necessary to go back to rest. When Mo Yunjua saw such a proud Bailey Hongzhuang, and the touch of appreciation in his eyes deepened. It seems that he was not mistaken, and Bailey Hongzhuang was really different from nary women. Even he had to admire today's performance of Bailey Hongzhuang. Xiao Lanying looked at Bailey Hongzhuang and others, and his indifferent eyes flashed with a trace of interest. He hadn't felt like this in a long time. Beihai College was a place where everyone only pays attention to their own interests. But to go this level in order to help their friends take revenge, he was afraid that there had never been such a case in the history of Beihai College. Perhaps this move of Bailey Hongzhuang was stupid in the eyes of many people, but this kind of rare friendship was very valuable. Hongzhuang, how are you? Xia Yuqing held Bailey Hongzhuang, and her smart eyes were full of worry. Although this battle made her very happy, Bailey Hongzhuang's injuries were the most important. Bailey Hongzhuang waved slightly. The injury is not very serious, don't worry. Most of her sufferings were superficial and did not hurt her vitals, so the impact was not that great. Chapter 775. The Dark Horse. Bailey Hongzhuang. Xia Yuqing looked deeply at Bailey Hongzhuang. Are you really okay? Looking at the uncertainty and worry in Xia Yuqing's eyes, Bailey Hongzhuang smiled lightly. Do not worry, this battle has not hurt my vitals and the superficial injuries will soon recover. Seeing that Bailey Hongzhuang was alright, Xia Yuqing let go the worry in her heart. After all, Bailey Hongzhuang herself was a godly doctor. She believed that Bailey Hongzhuang knows her physical condition very well. Lu Huayan also went to Bailey Hongzhuang. There was no shortage of worry in his eyes. Bailey Hongzhuang, your contest for today is over. Go back to rest soon. Bailey Hongzhuang nodded slightly. All right. Bailey Hongzhuang returned to the dormitory under the eyes of everyone. Mo Yunjue was also in the crowd. The face that had always been calm and not too emotional had not fluctuated too much and was indifferent as usual. However, the eyes that were as deep as a black hole had a few changes, but the fluctuations disappeared too quickly, making it impossible for others to see. The long-awaited inter-college tournament's elimination round ended with the unforgettable and eye-catching battle of Bailey Hongzhuang. All the students left. After this battle, no one dared to treat the Kanglin College students with contempt, because they proved their strength with action. The strong was always respected. Huan Chuyu left the high platform with a smile on his face, and the next mess was handed over to Jian Qingqiu to deal with. Regardless of the results of the final, it was only in this year's tournament that the limelight of Lingyin College and Beihai College had been completely snatched by the Kanglin College. The people who were originally onlookers also dispersed with a face full of shock. They thought that this time Lingyin College would crush Kanglin College with an irresistible momentum. Who could have thought that Kanglin College would explode with such a huge unexpected victory? On the other hand, except for Nangong Aochen who directly advanced to the finals, all the other participants of the Lingyin Collage have been eliminated in the elimination round. The audience thought Nangong Xiujie would win, but he actually lost in the hands of Bailey Hongzhuang, not to mention Bailey Hongzhuang still won while fighting across levels. What kind of combat power was this? Bailey Hongzhuang was definitely the dark horse of this time's inter-college tournament. In the end, Beihai College only entered the finals due to Xiao Lanying. 1. As for Xiao Lanying, those who watched his battle knew that Xiao Lanying was also very strong. But under the cover of Bailey Hongzhuang, the limelight of Xiao Lanying was completely obscured. However, everyone understood that the finals that is to be held tomorrow is the real highlight. This year's tournament seemed to be more exciting than every previous session. Although Xia Yuqing lost in the hands of Xiao Lanying was obviously not a scum like Nangong Xiujie. He did not make any excessive moves and finished the battle as soon as possible. In this regard, Xia Yuqing also accepted this failure with peace of mind. Being able to advance to the third round has exceeded her expectations. As for being the trump card of the college, Xia Yuqing has already prepared for it, so she does not feel a bit disappointed. Inside the house, Bailey Hongzhuang looked at the people who cared about her in the house. A beautiful smile couldn't help but emerge. You can rest assured I am fine. Her injury was clear to herself. It only needs to be nursed back to recover, but her skin might need some time to heal. Notes: 1. The previous translator used his name as Xiao Lanmei, while it is actually Xiao Lanying. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.